Welcome to Good Business. Great to have your company on this Tuesday night. Nicole Murray joins us a bit later on from Hot Chocolate Coaching. Tanya Murphy from Jet Beads and Craft. We also go out and about to Orion Family Physiotherapy and meet up with Adam Atherton. We've all heard of rent, try and buy schemes, but what about this for something completely different? Silver Chef is about hospitality equipment funding, and it's been helping businesses to fund their restaurant requirements over many years, in fact 2 decades. It's a publicly listed company, and Silver Chef Chief Executive Officer is Alan English, and he joins me on the program. How are you, Alan?
Fine, thank you, Ashley.
Certainly a long history there, now coming up to 24 years for yourself with this organisation. What was the seed of the idea to develop this company?
Necessity, probably. I had been to the States and seen how the home delivery pizza boom had taken off, and they're all using a particular type of oven, which was a conveyor-style oven. So I thought, well, home delivery pizza will certainly come to Australia. This is back in 1986, we're talking about 85, 86. So I went and seen Pizza Hut and said, listen, are you guys going to get into the home delivery pizza business? And they said, sure are. So I said, are you going to use this type of oven? They said, yep. I said, okay, well, when are you looking at needing it? About 3 months' time. I said, beautiful. So I went to America, got the agency, came out, the ovens arrived. But of course, for funding it, I had to borrow everything from the banks and aunties and uncles and the whole 9 yards to get cash up front for the ovens. But when I actually got them here, I knocked on the door of Pizza Hut and said, listen, we've got the ovens ready to go. And they said, oh, look, we're running late. We're going to be at least another 3 to 6 months away. And it was a bit of like, oh, okay.
Not good for finance, is it?
No, not particularly. So I then went out to try and sell them to the independent pizza shops. And those, in the old days, the old pizza ovens deck style were about $6,000. And this newfangled technology I was trying to sell was $27,000. So it was a pretty hard sell. And I couldn't get any independents to take it up because it was just too much capital. And I had this long distance between when Pizza Hut was going to open up and the bank is now tapping on the shoulder saying it's time to pay the interest, boys, where are you? So one day I woke up and thought, well, I've got a shed full of ovens, why don't I put some out on rent? At least that way I can get some cash coming in from the rent to keep the bank off my back until the home delivery pizza boom takes off. And eventually, fortunately, it did. And lots of people were quite happy to rent it, they just didn't want to come up with the capital to buy it. So that was the start of the rental program.
And so how broad has it grown to? What kind of equipment do you put out there?
Well, we do all sorts of restaurant equipment now. It takes up about 80% of our business. And we have another brand called Go Getter, which is the same rent, try, buy formula. And how that works is you can rent for a minimum of 12 months, but if you choose to buy it, you get 75% of the rent you've paid back off the price. So it's a way of helping businesses grow their business, exercise their option to purchase it once they've got known information that they've got a successful formula. So now we've got about $100 million worth of equipment out there now, which is a lot. And we've helped about 25,000 businesses since we started to help them either get established or help grow their business through equipment funding.
So for you to embark on such an entrepreneurial process, is this the first kind of major entrepreneurial step you took, or were there some things prior to this?
Oh, I think every entrepreneur's got early days stories. I think my first business was when I was 18. I was selling posters on the streets. I had an artist friend who did some lovely, simple black and white sketches, which I was able to go to the printers for 5 cents, and I was able to sell them for 50 cents. And that was my first entrepreneurial venture, shall we say.
And so linking that with finance, did you have some background in the financial world, or that just happened to be a nice kind of link?
It was really about designing a system that will suit the customer. I mean, anybody in small business that's starting out in small business, particularly 20 years ago, it's a little easier today, but it's pretty tough getting finance. And in the restaurant equipment industry, the equipment's very expensive. It's not cheap. So often when they go along for a traditional finance house, it's more about how big's your house that I can lend against, rather than how good's your story. You can be, a young chef working for the last 6 or 7 years in a restaurant, doing fabulous food, developed a fine reputation, but unless you've got a big house, you can't get a restaurant open. Well, we think that sort of entrepreneur needs help and support, and we've backed them in the past into these ventures and have built such a successful formula, because once they do become successful, they very fortunately don't forget where they got their start from, and so they keep coming back to you again and again. So our repeat business is really very solid.
Do you find that people tend to stay with the the rental option as opposed to purchasing, or do you see a fair amount of purchase
Oh
going?
no, most of them exercise that option to purchase. It just depends on the timing of it, of the business. So what we're saying is, listen, exercise the option to purchase. When you know you've got a good solid business and you're producing good profits, then exercise your option to purchase, because you're now making a buying decision on known information, rather than at the start of the process where it's all done by a spreadsheet and a hope and a prayer that it works. You know, don't do that. Keep your cash in your back pocket. Rent the equipment from us, and when you get up and running and you know you've got yourself a successful formula, then take out the wallet and spend your hard-earned money, but you're doing it then on known information, not a guess.
Okay, so apart from this, of course, you venture into a whole range of other things. I want to talk to you about some other very exciting venture you've got coming up,
for sure.
and we'll do that straight after this break. You are on Good Business. I'm talking with Alan English, and we'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to Good Business. My guest is Alan English, who's the Chief Operating Officer for Silver Chef and Chairman of Queensland Ambassador Group Opportunity International. And it's about Opportunity International that I'd like to pick up on now, Alan,
Sure.
which is really, in a sense, a kind of another venture as an entrepreneur. What is it all about?
Well, Opportunity International provides microfinance in developing countries. So what that really means is, for a small loan of, say, around about a couple $100, it will be lent predominantly to women, so 86% of our clients are women, and that's enough to start a small business, which they repay back over 6 months, and that money is then relent to a second person who repays it back, and it's lent to a third person. So the loans continually to recycle, so that money keeps on working, but most importantly, it gives a chance for someone in an area of great poverty the opportunity to be self-employed and work themselves out of the poverty cycle.
And I guess, you know, when we hear this kind of concept, it sounds almost foreign, doesn't it, in the sense that here's people who are in desperate poverty, who need a loan, and it kind of seems somehow counterculture, and yet we provide a lot of time and effort into training people to grow crops and to become self-sustaining, but it
Sure.
seems like the finance, from what you're suggesting, is the one ingredient left out. How do you come across these people and then get to help them?
Sure. Opportunity works through a partnership process. So we have local not-for-profit organisations on the ground. So we operate in 23 countries around the world now. In Australia, we tend to look after the Asia-Pacific Rim, which is India, the Philippines, East Timor, West Timor and Indonesia. So that's our main area of concentration. So in our partners, we'll do surveys to find out where are the lowest socio-economic areas where poverty is its greatest needs. Set up a hall meeting for those people interested in finding about how microfinance works, and then put together groups of usually about 15 to 20 women at a time, and they form a group to learn about microfinance, have a business opportunity they want to see funded, and then the process is they stand up in front of their peers and read out what they want the loan for and how they're going to pay it back, and then everybody puts their hand up in the group, and once everybody puts their hand up, that means the loan's approved.
Okay.
Now, many countries, they use a group lending methodology, and what that means is when the other women put their hand up to approve the loan, it also says that if Mary doesn't pay, I'll agree to put some money into the till to make her payment for her. So in cross-guarantee models, that means that everybody helps each other. If one person gets sick, you've got someone else there willing to help them establish a business to keep on going. So you have both individual loans but also group methodology as well.
So before the break, when we were talking from the Silver Chef concept and giving people a leg up in this environment, I should imagine that there must be an amazing response from the locals who find that you're willing to actually, I guess, believe in them, financially support them.
Sure.
What do you see on the ground? What's the feedback?
The impact is quite extraordinary. Because to share with you a brief story, there's a lady I met in the Philippines. Her name was Letitia, and I went into the village, and to paint you the picture, it's a very poor area, and I came in front of the house was a lot of fish that had been come from the markets that morning. Unfortunately, there's a few flies around as well. She was pretty tough going, and I heard Letitia's story, and hers was that when she used to go to the markets every morning at 4 a.m. to collect fish, which she would put on a basket on her head and walk around the village and sell on a consignment basis. And she would get 20% of whatever she sold, just something on a commission type basis. She then heard about Opportunity International and was able to get a loan. And once she got this loan, it meant that she could now have capital to go into the markets and buy fish. Well, that meant that she was able to get a 40% margin now because she had capital. So she got this loan, she sells the fish, pays back the loan and then gets a second loan and decides that with that second loan she'll buy a fish smoking machine. And she had the fish smoking machine right beside us as we were talking. And now she sells smoked fish, which she now gets an additional 20% premium again for. And now she's got 6 people working for her on a consignment basis selling fish. So, and that was a journey of 2.5 years to get to that point when I met her. So it really does make a difference.
Why do you, as an entrepreneur, do what you do?
Oh, I think that the sense of purpose in finding a way to benefit others, I think it really ties up to internal values. It's something that I found to hold true. I got a little lost there for a while when I first, in about the 2000 period, where the banks wouldn't give me any more money to fund my business. I was uncertain about why I'd want to make more money, what I was going to do with it. I still live in the same house I lived in 20 years ago. So finding something that I got involved with the microfinance sector, and I did a project in East Timor with half a dozen mates, and the report came back that we were going to change the lives of 40,000 people out of that one project. And I thought, wow, you know, imagine if I could change 40,000 people's lives every year. Would that give me a reason to get back into business again and get a bit more serious about what we did? And I did, and we listed on the stock market 3 years later, and large chunks of my dividend streams go to fund projects in microfinance. So it means my purpose in what I do in my working life is now directly linked to a humanitarian output that's going to benefit my fellow man, and that's something that's important to me.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you coming in today to talk about both enterprises that you're passionately involved with, and we wish you all the best for the future.
Thank you, Ashley. Appreciate it.
Alan English joining us on the program. We're going out and about right now to Orion Family Physiotherapy.
My tip for the day would be, remember that the business idea itself is only worth 10% of the equation. The other 90% is made up of systems, resources and people. You've got to have good systems to deliver your customer promise. You've got to have the resources like money. So live with your cash flow statement and know it better than you know your spouse. And the other important part of it is making sure you've got the great people around you. Attract good people and you'll have a great business. But most importantly, have fun on the journey. Enjoy it.